the CVM reporters, as I told you, who've been in on the action. Then towards the end of the program today, we're doing, of course, an extended episode of Lead Story today. Towards the end, we'll be going to the UK to form the government. Labour Party will need no help because its majority is so hefty. And yeah, that's the situation. We're going to deal with that towards the end of the show today. All right, so let's get cracking with the heavy lifting that we have to do this afternoon, because we have made contact with Richard Thompson, Director General at ODPEM, for an update on the work of his team. Richard, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story. Do you have me muted? There you go. I'm hearing you now. Excellent. First of all, I want to say on behalf of the country, thanks to you and your team for the work that you've put in, for the man hours that you and every single member of the ODPEM staff have put in these times in service to the nation.
Yeah, man, thanks. That's what we have signed up for. So as true patriots, we have to serve and ensure that our people are protected. All
right, Richard, give us a perspective now on the extent of the, let me call it, the repair operation from here. And from that, what I mean is where damage has been done, where people are still in shelters, where ODPEM still has to be working to prevent disasters or to take people out of disasters' way.
All right, so what is happening now is that the team has gone out. When the weather all clear was given, and that was assigned to say to the team that yes, you can go into the field. So the team went into the field today, and we will be getting. They are still out, so some of them will be coming in. Will be coming in shortly in terms of to get us the information that they have. A team went out into St. Thomas out of the NEOC with the NERGIS team, which is a national GIS emergency team, which is Geographic Information Science team, went out. The GIS team went out into the field, St. Thomas and St. Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth is the most impacted area. A lot of the places out there suffered extensive damage. So the team is in the field. Also, this morning, some instruction was given and JPS went out into the field. So across the full spectrum, the assessment is being done. Works agency, everybody, ODPEM, everybody, that assessment is being done. They're out there as well doing their assessment.
Yeah. All right. Insofar as shelters are concerned, Richard, how many people remain and what can you say are the reasons for them to be still in these shelters?
All right, so we have close to 2,000 persons still in shelters. We gave some figures yesterday, but because of some of the connective issues coming out of like St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and those areas, we were getting some of those data today. We have 165 shelters active, still running, and 100 deactivated.
So you've deactivated 100, but 165 still have people?
Still have people, and we're still getting some numbers. I think Trelawney are one of those I've not received any information from. So because there are some connective issues that are still happening that we're trying to get over.
Right. And what would be the reason for people remaining? Is it that they've lost their homes completely? They've lost their roofs? Nobody in the community can accommodate them, so it's best for them to remain in the shelters?
Yes, man. Jamaicans don't like to be in shelters. So once persons still remain, you know that they would have had some damage at their dwelling place. You know, so that would cause them to remain in the shelters. So those who are in the shelters are the ones who have issues going back home. Once Jamaicans they know that there's nothing has happened to their houses, they are out of the shelters. They don't want to be there in the first place, so they would leave.
Is it safe to assume that St. Elizabeth has the most people in shelters?
Yes, I think we can assume that, but we will have to ensure that we crunch those numbers so we can update at a later date.
Yeah.
So because that's heavily impacted.
Yeah.
Even given how the system passed us, it was very close to the port of St. Elizabeth.
Yeah. Of course, I know that the information is still coming in. You say your officers are out in the field gathering the data as we speak. But
and they went into St. Elizabeth, so we should have way more information coming in when they get back in house.
Yeah.
As it relates to St. Elizabeth.
Yeah. Let's start out east though, because Portland and St. Thomas, they were receiving rain before much of the island started feeling the effects of Beryl on Wednesday morning. Can you speak to the extent of flood damage in Portland and St. Thomas?
So for Portland and St. Thomas, what we were getting from them, it was a lot of down trees. So down trees, some down power lines, not much in terms of flooding, because especially for St. Thomas, if you don't get report that Hardley Crossing is flooded,
yes,
then you know that St. Thomas don't have a lot of flood-related issues. So we didn't get a lot of information coming in from St. Thomas and Portland as it relates to flooding, but more on the wind side, down trees, down power lines, some issues. I think there was one we had one report of a tree falling in someone's house. So that was the issue on Portland. And as we said, the team went out into St. Thomas, so we should have more information about what has happened on the ground in St. Thomas.
Based on your time, if you track the time...
storm surge.
Go ahead, Richard.
Sorry, and it's storm surge that we were getting at Roselle.
Yeah. If you could draw a line from the time you started at ODPEM to now, how many hurricanes or tropical storms would you have presided over in your capacity as Acting Director General?
Good people. Go again, George. I think you're having some connectivity.
Yeah, I was asking you, how many storms or hurricanes have you witnessed in your time at ODPEM?
A lot. Let me tell you, both of us were at NEPA, and when I left NEPA and came to ODPEM, I got a proper baptism with Gustav.
Yes.
3 weeks after leaving NEPA, coming to ODPEM.
That was 2010.
So it has been since Gustav.
Yeah, that was 2010. So the reason I asked that question is to set up this one to say
that was 2008.
Oh, 2008. Oh, well, you yes, you when you left, I just joined. We crossed paths briefly. The point I wanted to make by the question is this. The response from persons to directives or instructions to leave and take refuge in shelters. I want to know from you if the response this time, given that so much information was thrown at them through so many media, I mean, we are more saturated with smartphone and technology than ever before. So I wanted to know if, based on your assessment, more people responded to that instruction, that guidance now than any before. You can think about that, the answer to that, and give it to me after this break. Let's take this break and come right back. I'm speaking with Richard Thompson, the Acting Director General at ODPEM. In the wake of Hurricane Beryl, we're counting the cost, we're assessing the damage, and we're looking at how swiftly we can help people to get their lives back to normal.
We can't say we're a friend now, Celine. We have to take on the road.
Yeah, man, we have to take on the same way. All right, Lord, thank you so much for this day.
Me, I do the work, and the people them accept it. Clarendon, Mandeville, but now we get to go into the inner city of Kingston.
I can't wait to learn more as we go across Jamaica into different churches to understand what they do.
With a perfect win record from the group stage, the heavy Argentine artillery will next roll into Texas. Their next battle, a South American clash with Ecuador. The quarterfinals of the Copa America begins this Thursday on CVM TV. Argentina, Ecuador. See it happen. Live at 8 p.m. on CVM TV. Brought to you by
KFC, J-Ray and Nephew, Quartz, Sunshine Snacks.
Yeah, I saw some images there from Rocky Point in Clarendon, where residents had to be evacuated to shelters because of the the threat that Hurricane Beryl posed at her meanest as she passed the southern coast of Jamaica. Thankfully, for the majority of the population, the damage from Beryl not as bad as feared. What is true, though, is that some people have suffered significant damage, especially those who live in the southern part of St. Elizabeth. Really, really bad in that part of the Breadbasket Parish. And so bad that the Prime Minister has, I think he's now undertaking a tour of that section of the parish to see the damage for himself firsthand and to see what the authorities need to help the people to get back on their feet in the shortest possible time. Richard, I was asking you before the break if it is that people were more receptive to the warnings, the guidance to go to shelters for this hurricane than any of those you would have seen previously in your time at the ODPEM.
Yes. And that's because what they find is that in the past, persons are still apprehensive about shelters, but they went in, and you can see with the numbers. Mm-hmm. And even in Port Royal, that we tend to have some issues with something. When we went into Port Royal, a lot of persons had actually left to say that they were getting out of the community. Even though we wanted more people to go, but it is getting better. And a part of it is that because of media and how connected we are internationally, persons are seeing for themselves live image as to what systems are doing in real time to other countries.
Yes. And
remember, in our days, when you talk about like Gilbert and stuff, you would be waiting for a newspaper information from some other country to see what has happened. You are getting that real time.
Yes. Yes. All right. So insofar as the situation is concerned now, you say your agents are out in the field, assessments have already begun. Before I even broach the question I was preparing, I want to ask, what role, if any, does ODPEM play in the information sharing that ultimately results in advice being given to the Prime Minister and Cabinet to declare a curfew?
Well, the information is there in terms of what ODPEM and the Met Office, in terms of what we are hold on, let me just mute this.
Yeah.
Yes, in terms of what we think we'll be expecting. So what we do in prepping for an event is that we run scenarios. So for Beryl, what we did, based on what we were seeing when it was in the Eastern Caribbean, we did not know for sure whether it would go south of us, whether we'll get a direct hit with the eye making landfall, or whether we just have landfall with part of the system making landfall. So what we did, we ran 3 scenarios. Northern Passage on the north coast, Southern Passage, south coast, and a Central Passage looking similar to Gilbert.
Yes.
And then you crunch those numbers based on the vulnerable population and the vulnerable communities. And you say, look, this looks very troublesome, and we are in for a rough time, and those information are given to the executive.
Yeah, and it's important to ask that question, Richard, because people make it seem as if Cabinet sits in a room and then decides arbitrarily to impose a curfew, not understanding that it is offices like yours, the one you serve, and your colleague, your colleagues in the whole disaster preparedness and response mechanism that
Yes.
give the information to Cabinet to make that decision.
Yes, and what people must remember that as well, that there was an extensive briefing to Cabinet on Monday by all the members of the National Response Team.
Yeah. So
So there was adequate information to make decisions.
Yeah.
And also you have to go from historical record, like
Yes.
what happened in Gilbert with looting and all these kind of things to ensure that we're preventing stuff like that from happening.
Absolutely so. And isn't it true, Richard, that for the period, for instance, where the Met Service issues a hurricane warning, that a curfew would normally coincide with the period that the hurricane warning is in effect to keep people off the streets, to not have the emergency services have to go in multiple directions to respond to things that could have been avoided by people staying at their homes, and also to prevent people from looting businesses that are now vulnerable with no security guards, no staff present at these places?
Yes, man, exactly. That's basically how it is. And remember, this has been since Gilbert. In terms of based on the evidence of Gilbert, persons taking fridge, persons walking with fridge on their backs and that kind of thing. So that has been in place since Gilbert to ensure that person stay off the street. The emergency response have adequate time to prep. Before and in that time as well, you are saying to persons get into shelters because they want to ensure that we are not putting the emergency services member at risk to come and trying to save people in the middle of a hurricane.
Absolutely so. Richard, as we come to the close, the fact is that I wonder if, like me, you believe that your team will have to do this again before this hurricane season is over, given how active this hurricane season is forecast to be?
It's a strong possibility. When Beryl was forming, there was a little thing happening behind Beryl. Mm-hmm. And last night, I said to the team, who is tired? and one person said, well, something else might be coming, So and once the seeds start playing out in July, end of June, July, for activities that we normally get in September, August, September, strong possibility we're in for a rough.
Yeah.
That's why we're saying to people, it's very early in the season, and you can see what is happening in front of you, the level of preparedness throughout the year. Build some resilience for yourself, because one of the things is that we went on an extensive campaign some years ago in terms of advocating and ensuring that persons are using hurricane structure in their construction. I was saying to the team last night that we have, and sometimes today as well, that we have to rebrand that campaign for persons to start looking back at hurricane straps, and the challenge now will come in where for the older development in terms of ensuring that retrofitting takes place. So you can ensure that you're securing your roof.
Hear you on that. Richard, don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Again, good job that you and your team did, and we hope that you have the stamina for more work over the rest of the hurricane season, because one suspects that we'll have more activity to deal with. Thank you this evening.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, George.
Richard Thompson. Good. Richard Thompson, Acting Director General of ODPEM. We take a break here and Lead Story. Back with more after these.
From a tough Group A, Canada will aim to defy the odds and progress to the Final Four of the Copa America, standing their way on the free-flowing Venezuelans, hitting top form at the perfect time. A clash worth going miles to see. Canada, Venezuela in quarter-final action from the Copa America, live Friday at 8 p.m. on CVM+. Brought to you by
KFC, J-Ray and Nephew, Quartz, Sunshine Snacks.
Jamaica's favorite drama, Your Guilty Pleasure.
Listen to me, is it, Reverend Madden? I don't want you to gamble with my life or the lives of our children.
Royal Palm Estate is on CVM every Tuesday and Sunday at 9 p.m.
gave you Kevin Downsville. We gave you Glacier Robinson.
Hold my hand today.
We gave you Lubert Levy.
By force, we are going to take it by force. Yeah.
And now, 10 gospel music warriors vie to determine who will be the 2024 JCDC Jamaica Gospel Star. Sundays in prime time, 8 p.m. on CVM TV, starting July 7th. Our God is bigger than what people say.
Fitness, brought to you by Your Plate and Nature Valley.
Hi, I'm Celine Gordon, host of Holy Road.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy John Mark Wigan, host on the show Holy Road. Listen, people need to know what's happening in the churches and in ministry in all of Jamaica. It's an absolute blessing. We're really excited to share this.
Tune in to CBM, see it happen.
Look who we have in the cut. No, today episode I got nice. Legends, Senator, my longtime brethren, the great all-star, the king, and the man himself. Salute! You know, as man, we're not too go specialist, and that's the pinnacle of the problem. We want some new era. Do what you love and you never work a day in your life. Lie! You work till you win. It was pandemonium. Country people can't relate to me I talk about.
What you think about me no matter, you know. What matter to me is what me think about myself.
Man United, you know. I don't care what man want to say.
You know, man.
Yeah, man.
You know, man. You finished?
Yes, we finished.
The Cut is brought to you by Flo and Guinness.
With a perfect win record from the group stage, the heavy Argentine artillery will next roll into Texas. Their next battle, a South American clash with Ecuador. The quarterfinals of the Copa America begins this Thursday on CVM TV. Argentina, Ecuador. See it happen. Live at 8 p.m. on CVM TV. Brought to you by
KFC, J-Ray and Nephew, Quartz, Sunshine Snacks.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Images there showing the head of the St. Elizabeth Police, Superintendent Coleridge Minto, leading his team as they try to clear roadways blocked by downed trees, and the CVM team with them every step of the way. And then images from the historic Monroe College. Looked as if a bomb had been dropped on the compound. And yeah, I think I should stick with the original road at the top. The campus appears devastated, and it will take a pretty penny to get Monroe back to where it was before the passage of Hurricane Beryl. We're introducing two of our reporters to the discussion now, Adrian Williams and Ramon Gordon. They were both out in the field and doing the Lord's work on Wednesday. I'll start though with a feature that Ramon has prepared on one of the most important infrastructure history the Sandy Gully. Ramon did a special feature on that.
Ramon Gordon here, still on location, reporting from New Haven in the vicinity of the Haney Park. As you can hear, the winds have certainly started to pick up, and the atmosphere has certainly changed here on the ground. Residents have retreated indoors as they're now bracing for the incoming storm. Still very averse to evacuations. They're saying they're going to be staying home, they're going to be banking on their community, they're going to be banking on themselves. You're saying that the light post is shaking?
Man, yeah, it dropped down already. It look out all light. And now, I just see two of them just rock. So, that me say, anytime it can come down and I pay fire that. Pay fire.
You're not going to leave?
Well, I'm not leave because I have things I'm in anyway, though. I can't leave.
But what will you...
And the loot of them there, to thief it.
But people will say that things can be replaced.
Boy, it's not replaced. Not necessarily true.
Currently heading back to the office. It's getting dangerous on the road. CVM News will continue bringing you the updates as we get them. But as we've been saying all day, stay home, stay safe, do not put yourself in harm's way. I'm back.
All right, so we had to cut that short. But Ramon, he's here so he can speak to what he saw and the people he interacted with. Welcome to Lead Story.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, so as you traverse sections of the corporate area, you visited New Haven, a community prone to flooding. You could wash your face in New Haven and it would flood. That's how vulnerable it is, prone it is to flooding. You spoke with one resident there in that clip we just saw, but did you speak with anybody else, and what did you see in terms of evidence that the authorities had put things in place to mitigate against the likely flooding in New Haven?
Mike, what we saw a while ago was a clip from yesterday, just ahead of Beryl. Residents there were very averse to evacuating. They were very, very keen to hold on to what little they had. We visited the space this morning, and I ran into the MP there and the councillor, and they were both pretty incensed because the issue isn't a new one. I was on the ground last November. The conversation is one that has been ongoing. The MP is Mr. Anthony Hilton.
Yeah, Western St. Andrew.
Western St. Andrew. And he said that the government is certainly aware of the issue and they're being slow to act. The residents agree, and they want action immediately. I visited a shelter.
Slow to act in terms of putting
measures in place to clear up the Sandy Gully.
There you go.
And clean up the foot of the gully that is affecting the community. Because it's a very particular part of the community that's causing a lot of the problem. There are like 4 different holes that should be open to allow the water to go through. But at present, I think only 1.5 work. So the residents want there to be consistent maintenance.
So waterways blocked?
Absolutely. That's it. So the residents want there to be consistent maintenance of their facilities there. And then there's this notion that the MP also challenged and the councillor challenged it as well. Persons will watch the footage and see the destruction and ask, why don't these people just leave? So the MP is asking, where will they go? A lot of people think that the residents of New Haven are squatters. That is not the truth. These persons can present you documents that prove that they are legal landowners. Now, MP Hilton is saying that if the government wants these people to move, then they have to provide a viable alternative. And he contends, to this point, they have not.
Yes. Adrian, where were you with the CVM team on Wednesday? What did you see?
Well, I was actually, so my role, so you have different aspects of the whole team. So you have those out in the field and you have those in studio or in office. I was in office on the day, on the actual day of Hurricane Beryl. Of course, when the journalists are in the field, how are we going to get it out to the nation? People have to be there to organize it, to put it together and ensure that what they're sending in is not just being sent in randomly, but being disseminated so the nation can be informed, so they can see the dangers that are out there. If they're thinking about going on the road for have a joyride, we see people partying, right? But nonetheless, we put out what we get so that people can be informed.
Your role just as important. The only thing that you weren't in the path of the wind and the rain as Ramon was. And speaking of Ramon, we go back to that Sandy Gully feature that he prepared. This is the insert we wanted to show.
I'm back in New Haven, just a day after the passage of Hurricane Beryl. This community is very flood prone, and yesterday, well, was no exception. Today I'm joining one of the residents who lives here, and she's going to be giving us just a glimpse into some of the damage that has been done.
The CVM News team didn't know what to expect, especially following our visit last evening. So we dressed accordingly soon immensely grateful to see the waters had since receded. Residents were in recovery mode, clearing debris and trying to regain structure. However, for some, that may prove more difficult.
Wet, a piece of cloth and put inside. Yep, the pen mashed down, and you can see as well the zinc and blow down until.
That's why you have to be letting some of your animals inside.
Yes, darling.
Surfing Green said she cried last evening as she nervously clung to her partner. She's happy to be alive.
When time I hear the rain start, I'm looking on the phone 1 minute after 10. And I say, God, I hate this now. I don't say God was take down the little water. Quarter to 12. Ask anybody if they look on them phone, soldier. The rain just stop quarter to 12.
You're grateful?
Oh God, I'm giving God thanks. I'm giving God glory, praise.
The residents have seemingly grown immune to the effects of the floods. However, they haven't given up hope that the issue may someday be resolved. Neither has the area's MP, Anthony Hilton, who has long petitioned the government for intervention.
The efforts has been consistent. They've been in writing, they've been in speeches in Parliament. I've always advocated for significant remedial work.
Sir Hilton, then what's the hold up?
Well, money.
Hilton claims the government is aware of the issue and is being deliberately slow to act. That's why he's accusing them of negligence.
When it's ignored for as long as it has, then it means that cleaning now is a problem, is expensive. But it has to be done because the solution isn't for the people to relocate as the narrative goes, which is they're all squatters, and this is not true.
Some residents had to evacuate last evening as floodwaters entered their homes. Their councillor was also on the ground following the event.
I just visited the shelters and there are still people there having nowhere to go because their homes have been damaged. It is now more time than ever that we put in the necessary infrastructures in place to address the gullies.
CVM News visited a nearby shelter to get an update from the residents there.
The house that we're living in, we have to put buckets, and we have children in the house, and it was terrible yesterday, but we have to give God thanks same where it's not worse.
The residents are happy they've been spared the worst. However, their MP says it's up to the government to prevent a similar flooding event.
They cannot say the issues are not being clearly articulated. Even now as I speak, there's a motion on the table in Parliament about the drains and gullies. It should be enough that the Member of Parliament has been consistently advocating for these remedies. It should be enough.
Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
Report there including the Member of Parliament for Western St. Andrew, George Anthony Hilton, and the council, the representative in the municipal corporation, Michelle Thomas. She is an attorney at law. So Ramon, the human side of Beryl, people who live in precarious circumstances whenever it rains heavily, and the sense of dread and the foreboding that comes with a hurricane, one can just imagine how they feel as if the authorities really have let them down.
They feel defeated. This is an issue that they've complained about ad nauseum. Like I said, I was there last year, and before me another CVM reporter was there the year before that, and another the year before that.
The story never changes.
The story never changes. And persons have consistently asked, why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? These people live here. These are their homes. I spoke with 3 generations of women at the shelter. The mother, the daughter, the granddaughter. The mother said she bought her first home here, so she don't understand why people are asking her to leave and go where.
Right.
People need to recognize and understand that sometimes we're having these conversations, and the conversations just are far more nuanced than we give them credit for. We have to remember that these are humans at the end of the day that we're talking to, and we have to handle their stories with care.
And Adrian, even as you were in office coordinating on Wednesday and helping the reporters to get the stories out, as you got the information, what struck you about the reports? Were you, like many people, relieved that the information, the data you were getting was not as dire as predicted, or was the material you were getting still pretty bad by itself?
Well, I mean, a lot of the images were still bad, you know, because persons were being affected, but definitely it was not what any of us were expecting. We were expecting worse, and we give thanks that the expectation wasn't met, for sure.
You slept here last night?
From Tuesday.
You've been sleeping here since Tuesday?
This has been my home.
Is this your first hurricane as a journalist?
That is correct.
Yeah. Ramon, is this your...
First hurricane, not first weather system.
Not first weather system. Yeah. And you know, Jamaicans, we can see humor in everything. And I'm sure you've had time to look at what the memes have been focused on social media. Yeah. And you have to wonder, though, if people, Ramon, Adrian, will, because Beryl didn't deliver what was anticipated, if complacency will breed as a result, and so the next time ODPEM is out there informing people to be wary, the next time the government's communication is to take stock and get yourself ready, if people will be lax in their approach because, they hyped up Beryl and Beryl didn't deliver the knockout punch.
Complacency has already given birth. You go into the communities, they tell you, we're used to the floods, so I will just put my furniture on a cylinder and sleep up in the ceiling. Persons are so, I said it to Dennis earlier this morning, Jamaicans have found a very unique way to live with trauma. And it's just a very funny, don't care, but a lot of care attitude. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Jamaicans are an interesting people living in an interesting country in interesting times.
Adrian?
And you know, I'd like to add to that to say another perspective of it is a lot of persons don't trust the system, right? So I visited Port Royal the day before, so that would have been Tuesday and today. And the persons in Port Royal, they have a lot to use now as bragging rights and to say, hey, this is a good thing we never left, because when I'm there, the evidence of the shoreline, the water coming in, I should say, was minimal. So there was no damage, no no zinc roofs, nothing came off. But their experience at the shelters, they don't trust it, because the ladies, and many of the ladies are the ones who would have gone to the shelter in the past, for Ivan, for example. And they said that the security there isn't enough at the arena or the indoor sports center. It's not enough, because when everybody in the surrounding communities and the place pack like session, that's what they say, when that happens, them have to go to the bathroom with their girl children because they're being molested. Yeah, so...
Well, the risk of being molested.
The risk, right, that's correct. The risk of being molested is there. So, and the persons there treat them like trash. So they don't feel comfortable with the shelter system.
Hear you on that. Well, gentlemen, thank you for that. We have to send you away now and go to a break here on Lead Story. Ramon Gordon and Adrian Williams, their CVM hardworking reporters covering Hurricane Beryl for you.
Story, what's your sign? You're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
All right, guys, the news is in. You are loving MTM on CVM.
And for those who don't know, we are the Mitchells. I'm Wayne.
And I'm Tammy.
And you can come along with us on our journey every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Right here, you can see it happening on CVM TV.
Yeah, MTM man, CVM man.
See it happen, man. CVM man, MTM man, CVM man. See it happen, man. CVM man.
You're the sugar to my tea. Meet the Mitchell family.
On the right side of the sideline. Timmy Hampton's going to pass McConnell. Goes all the way around the outside in the Neil McCarran. Collins got two wheels. Contact.
back to a lead story. So the graphic tells the story of the British elections. Just saw that graphic there. So 326 needed for the majority. As I said earlier, the Labour Party projected to win 410 seats. 410 under Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. Rishi Sunak and the Tories, 131 seats. The Lib Dems projected to win 61. Nigel Farage, you remember him from UKIP? They had a huge role to play in Brexit. They are projected to win 13 seats. Then the Scottish National Party is projected to win 10. Plaid Cymru, that's the Welsh Party, is projected to win 4. The Greens are projected to win 2 seats. And other collection of parties are projected to win 19 seats in the House of Commons. So Keir Starmer is the man who is set to visit the King Charles, to get his imprimatur to lead the British government for the next 5 years. To talk about the numbers coming out of the elections, Najee Nunez, graduate international development student at Oxford University. We also have Oroyo Ibangs. He is a Jamaican journalist living in the UK, one of our bright stars in journalism, Oroyo is. And we also have Aaron Akimiemi. He is a journalist at the BBC. Now, all three men have African-sounding names. Well, Najee African-sounding. It's a nice name just to say, but for Oroyo and Aaron, certainly so. Good afternoon, good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening. Hi, George. Good evening. Good evening.
Greetings.
It's early morning in the UK.
I apologize, my friend. I forgot that it's early morning in the UK. But thanks for joining me. All right, let me ask the man very close to the action, Najee. First question. Did you vote? Who did you vote for? And what say you now that you see the value of what you did at the ballot?
Well, I will say I did have the privilege of exercising my franchise to vote today, and the overall election has felt like this collective holding of breath. With many eager for change, others wary of uncertainty, but all of us aware of the stakes at risk. I won't divulge who I voted for. I don't fault you for asking. But I will say the outcome, with Labour winning by such a large margin, is very telling. I think their focus on addressing economic instability, the promises of comprehensive measures to tackle the rising cost of living resonates with many voters. Their commitment to protecting and enhancing the NHS does strike a chord with many of us who are concerned about healthcare. And perhaps their strong stance on climate action appeals to younger voters as well. And that message of social justice and equality was a vision of inclusivity and unity. And I think that broad appeal across various critical issues has really garnered widespread support. But it was really a privilege as a Jamaican, as a citizen of the Commonwealth, to be able to exercise my franchise to vote in the elections today.
Yeah, Aaron, what conclusion can you draw from the exit polls showing Keir Starmer and the Labour Party projected to win 410 seats?
Well, I mean, it's a remarkable turnaround for the Labour Party. Which had its worst post-war election in 2019. So, I mean, many of the polls had suggested that Labour would make a stunning turnaround, and that's, it's been 14 years of a Conservative leadership, which has been plagued by, a lot of discontent, quite frankly, in terms of the election. There was a massive scandal under the...
Aaron, are you there? We appear to have lost Aaron Akimiemi. Let's go to Oroyo.
Yeah, there was a...
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, there was a massive scandal with Dominic Cummings during the lockdown for violating lockdown rules. So there's been a massive backlash against the Conservatives. So a lot of polls have suggested that it would be a Labour win. And the exit polls, if exit polls are correct, they usually are, it's a massive success for Labour. But Labour is still, under Keir Starmer, is still facing a lot of difficulty in terms of regaining its traditional Labour, the traditional Labour voter base.
Yeah.
And also with black voters as well.
Yeah.
There's been a massive backlash because of the Woodrush scandal, the way that Diane Abbott has been treated within the party. She was suspended for making allegedly anti-Semitic remarks. She's obviously the first black MP in the UK.
Aaron, hold it there, Aaron. Your line is giving me a challenge. Your line is posing a challenge. Steve, we can clean it up. Arroyo, you would have voted in what I believe would have been your first election in the UK. Did you get the outcome that your vote supported?
Not my first. I've had the privilege to vote in prior elections, and yes, got the outcome that my vote predicted. But yes, like Najee has said, it's massively because of what's been happening in the economy. It's massively because of what's been happening in the health service. It's massively because of what's been happening in people's lifestyle in the UK. And so the polls have predicted a Labour landslide, and the exit polls so far tonight are showing exactly that. 6 seats have been declared so far. They've all gone to Labour. But I think the big news tonight in this UK election is Reform UK. They have won so many seats, or not won seats, but have won more votes than even the Conservative Party so far, and it's second place for all 6 seats that have been declared. So I think that's the biggest news out of this election so far tonight.
Arroyo, would you say that the election results are more representative of anybody but the Tories vote rather than a love affair with Keir Starmer's Labour Party?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an anybody but the Tories vote. I think the Conservative Party, because of the 14 years they've held office, really, really lost the support of majority of the people in the UK. But however, I must say, Keir Starmer has worked very, very hard since he's taken office. He took office as the Labour leader during the pandemic, and I think it was probably the hardest time for anybody to ascend to office for a political party, and he didn't have the track record of any politician that was well known in the UK. So he worked very hard to get the love and support of majority of the people, and to have this majority, it's the largest majority since Tony Blair's time. It is kudos to him and his effort and his ability to pull the Labour Party together, to bring together a unified party, and to their policies to much of the UK. I mean, there's still a lot that is desirable of the Labour Party, but I think he's done a good enough job to reach this far tonight.
Yeah. Najee, let me ask you this. Politics now is different from politics at any time before. The people within the political machines believe that rights are to be asserted, and they'll go to any ends to assert those rights. I say that because if you look at the Tories over time, the Tories have had David Cameron as Prime Minister, Theresa May as Prime Minister, Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, Liz Truss as Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister, because various factions, influential factions in the party, felt that this Prime Minister wasn't doing what they felt was in the best interest of the party. Why is that not likely to happen to Keir Starmer? In other words, can that not happen to Keir Starmer in his time as Labour Party leader and Prime Minister?
No, certainly it can, and I hope the missteps that Sir Sunak took regarding some of these serious key factors, so looking at, for example, the economic policies which failed to address the pressing concerns of rising inflation and the cost of the living crisis, which led many to feel that he was out of touch with the everyday struggles of ordinary citizens. Similarly, his stance on Brexit was seen as very ambiguous, leading voters to feel very uncertain about the overall direction of trade and immigration. And furthermore, his perceived lack of strong support for the NHS, coupled with ongoing healthcare challenges, alienated a significant portion of the electorate. So in doing so, Sunak, I would say, really struggled to present a very unified vision in a time of political and social division, which failed to inspire confidence and solidarity amongst our voters. And those maladies that he faced are not unique to him. Certainly all can fall prey to what has been mentioned. And these missteps, combined with Labour's effective campaign focusing on economic stability and healthcare and climate action and social justice, contributed to his and the Conservative Party's decline in popularity. But as you mentioned, none are immune to what has unfolded in the past, and all should pay heed to what history has said.
Thank you, Najee. I have to put the last question to you. Labour gave the impression, especially through Keir Starmer, and I watch Prime Minister's questions every Wednesday. It's my guilty pleasure. He gives the impression that under him, Labour Party will fix every problem immediately and fix them forever. How long will the British the British public wait for him to put in the results that he has been telling them month after month that he can instill?
Not very long. And I think he knows that. I think he knows he has an electorate that is very, very fed up of politicians making and very fed up of the economic instability and the living conditions in the UK. So he knows he doesn't have very long. But I think he's a reasonable man. So far in opposition, he has put himself forward as somebody who has advocated for the poorest of the poorest. His track record, as a lawyer has been one that he can stand on. So I hope when he goes into office, when he takes office tomorrow, that he will realize that he just really needs to hit the ground running. The UK is concerned about immigration, are concerned about the NHS waiting list, concerned about mortgage rates.
Yeah.
So there's to get done,
Yes.
and I don't think he has a lot of time to do it.
Well, I tell you, gentlemen, as we wrap that, there was a point during the back and forth at PMQs on a Wednesday morning when Boris Johnson, in his role as Prime Minister, used to jibe Keir Starmer with the line and call him Captain Hindsight. Now, all of the UK can simply call Keir Starmer captain because he's now captain of the UK ship of state. Let's see what he does in his role as captain, because as I've said, he has given the very strong impression, Brits, I can fix all your problems, put me in charge, and the day...
Sunshine Snacks.
Start saving for your golden years with a Sagicor Lifestyle Approved Retirement Scheme. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock. CVM News at 7 Headlines Thursday. Brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure. Live easy.
Coming up in the news at 7, search for man swept away in gully during Hurricane Beryl proves futile. His family is reacting. St. Elizabeth unrecognizable in Beryl's aftermath, and South Coast Highway shows cracks.
Also in the news, Police Chief lauds team for Beryl security efforts. In the business news, Realtors Association embraces AI. And in sports, quarterfinals of Copa America kicks off this evening. From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. I'm Stephen McHugh.
And I'm Carolyn Brown. It's Monday, the 4th of July, 2024. Thanks so much for joining us for what will be a shortened broadcast as we make way for our continued live Copa America coverage. Now, it's become the norm for Jamaicans to label hurricanes based on their level of devastation.
Well, persons in the central parts of the island are far from high-spirited based on the little left for them to sift through.
The difference a day makes for hundreds of residents in southeast Clarendon is a lifetime of all some of them had.
Hundreds of homes that have been damaged, flooded, house flat, roof gone.
Early on July 3, when the signs became more pronounced, most were fearful, having survived Wild Gilbert, Ivan the Terrible, and Deadly Dean as recently as 2007. On July 4, Beryl's adjectives were boisterous.
Mad. Dangerous. And dangerous. From the barn, me never see nothing like that.
Nothing with Gilbert? Gilbert, that is some day. Right on the beach, I'm there, I see everything. Me no left off my beach up till now. See me shed there. I went to this one yesterday. It's too terrible, man. It's too terrible. I'm mad, man. And come with everything for rip up everywhere.
And rip she did. The structures in her path, no match for her Category 4 strength.
From Freetown straight into Cockpit, Mitchelltown seems so to be one of the areas where you have severe damage. Portland Cottage, where we are now, Rocky Point,
Longwood line in the town, a lot of flooding. But the reality is that we have to give thanks because, this could have been much worse if we got the direct hit. And there's no report of loss of life.
Along with the psychogenic status of these Jamaicans, it's also in their already bleeding pockets where they are hurting. For this man perched high, despite the confusion beside and even below, as it is now, with the power and electronic communications also affected, staying calm is perhaps the best option to even try to begin sifting through this mess. Mr. Wine is, however, taking it further.
Right now, we don't know when we'll get back to farm foot. We do not know when. At least you can see, because you have your eyes, you're not blind. You see where the place stay. Right? This boat here, I'm in response to it on that one over there. You see how far it come? You see when you see me sit down in, how way up so it come from. Them a place are not good. It mash up. It coming like seeing there so already. Can't see I take back the course. And anyone when power or authority can come and assist with from anywhere come because we lose everything.
Some residents of East Rural St. Andrew are blocked in by debris from the impact of Hurricane Beryl. In light of the inconvenience, concerned citizens were out clearing the way, supported by their Member of Parliament. Courtney Lewis has more details on that story.
Hurricane Beryl, which made landfall on Wednesday, has left a path of destruction and devastation in its wake. Some residents in East Rural St. Andrew have been left marooned due to fallen trees and landslides. Residents could be seen working to clear the roadways. They describe the aftermath of Beryl as devastating.
Over the years, if you can see it, if the cameraman can see it, or the shrubs from top side to bottom side, and even the patrol them with upon the road. So it's kind of devastating for them people here, to traverse the hillside, especially people who have coffee farmers up here. So if you come out today and just shoot through some of the bricks, break away them, it's a significant thing for them.
From morning, we wake up, we realize the whole place from Garden Town come all the way back in a Flamstead now, and Wally Palika broke off one. Yeah, Wally broke off one.
Member of Parliament Juliet Holness, during her visit, said contact was established with the marooned residents.
Westphalia people cannot come out at all, as way up in Mavis Bank. Our checks for those we can reach in the Irish Town areas, Penfield, Maryland, Woodford, all the way to Norbrook, reasonably okay. Checks along the Bull Bay stretch where we ended up having to dredge some of our ponds have been good. They have held up.
She added the damage was less than expected, noting work has been underway to help recover what's left of the roadways.
We have been moving around the constituency since morning. The volume of destruction that we are accustomed to, we have been spared. So we are grateful. We have to say thanks be to God. We have a lot more landslides, but they are smaller landslides. And the evidence would indicate that it would have been landslides primarily because of the movement of trees due to the velocity of the wind.
Their Member of Parliament, MP Juliet Holness, says it will take approximately 2 days to clear the area and restore service. Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
And the people of St. Elizabeth are grappling with the aftermath of one of the most devastating events in recent times. The Category 4 hurricane passed over Jamaica on Wednesday, putting the country's breadbasket parish in a scary position, the brink of Beryl's eye. Here's Trisha Gay Kelly.
As the storm clouds clear, a daunting recovery process begins for the residents of St. Elizabeth, who are left to pick up the pieces after Hurricane Beryl's eye wall battered the southern section of the island. Here, roofs were ripped off houses, trees uprooted, and power lines toppled, plunging many communities into darkness, leaving many people voicing frustration on social media as they tried to contact their relatives and loved ones in the parish. No building was was spared from Beryl's wrath. Traditional all-male school Monroe College was also badly damaged during Beryl's passing. The people of the Breadbasket Parish are now forced to plant new seeds and rebuild their communities from scratch with nothing but sheer will. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness toured the affected sections of the island on Thursday as part of the government's damage assessment after Hurricane Beryl. Speaking with the BBC on Thursday, he says the Caribbean is experiencing the effects of climate change.
For us, a small island developing state, the issues of climate change are real. Every year, countries in this region, and Jamaica in particular, we face weather events. Sometimes these are high-frequency, low-severity events, but what we are noticing is that the low-frequency, high-severity events are becoming more frequent. And so the impact on our budget, the exposure to debt financing in order to recover, all of those have an impact on our economy and our society.
Deputy Superintendent in charge of the St. Elizabeth Division, Coleridge Minto, and his team of officers also assisted parts of the parish with road clearing efforts. As the day came to an end, the people of St. Elizabeth remained steadfast in their resolve to rebuild their parish. Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, following an assessment tour with members of the High Command, says the constabulary is ready and prepared to take on the active hurricane season predicted for this year. He visited several police stations after Beryl. Nika Lewis reports.
Assessing the status of his team and their facilities, the crime chief says his members in the constabulary not only fared well during the disaster, but remain ready for what's to come.
But most importantly, our purpose here is to interact with our police officers. First and foremost, find out how they have faced personally at home and with their families, but also to say thanks to them for delivering on the promise that we've made to a nation who is grateful, I'm sure, to us. Hurricane Beryl was a Category 4 hurricane, a very early one in a very promising, busy hurricane season. And we have, I think, quite well stood up and rise to the occasion. I know that we are ready and prepared to take on any challenges that come with the active season that we anticipate.
He says there are some key takeaways.
There are lessons that we have learned, and we have to seize the opportunity every time when we have situations like these that we respond to. And so we will have a more comprehensive debrief, so that it will inform our plan going forward into these other operations. I want to take the opportunity to thank the public at large, whose effort and support in assisting us to keep you safe has been realized. I've been in some locations and within the corporate area where we're seeing persons coming out from their homes, assisting in clearing debris, clearing roadways.
Commissioner Blake also commended the compliance of citizens who he notes, for the most part, observed the curfew orders. He also offered further assurances.
I've seen police officers here working 24 hours, just to ensure that we are up and that we weather the storm quite well. I have seen persons delivering on promises that we have made to the nation. And it is very heartening as a commissioner of police when I can step before the nation and make the promises that we've made, knowing very well that my team will deliver and will execute. And so that is very good, and I want to take the opportunity to thank the team and the leadership and the entire High Command leadership area and divisional command to get the thing.
Nika Lewis, CVM News.
Beryl's impact has left more than just memories in the minds of some St. Catherine residents, even though the experience was nothing new to them. Our reporter Trisha Gay Kelly revisited the Bogwalk Gorge and Portmore for this update.
Wednesday, the day Hurricane Beryl tore through the island, leaving some citizens seeking shelter. However, the Bogwalk Gorge residents who spoke to CVM News Wednesday seemed as fine as they had predicted. But after the hurricane, most of their time was spent at home as the gorge's gates were closed at around midday Wednesday. Flatbridge, known for its debris collection post-natural disasters, was once again covered in mud, grass and pieces of wood as high and strong water currents sent a piece of any and everything it could find floating down the river. This is what Flatbridge looked like at about 8 p.m. Wednesday. By 2 p.m. Thursday, work was already underway to clear the bridge. As the resident had explained on Wednesday, it's a typical post-hurricane day. A similar sentiment by residents and business owners in Helsha who are seeking help to pick up the pieces.
This container, it needs to be moved. We have all stop blow off. And we have a great damage here. We want to help to clean up the beach, and kids are on the beach, so we need this container to be moved.
Though extensive, the damage seems to be less than they anticipated. Kayon, a relative of a business owner on the beach, says she's seen worse in the past.
I wouldn't call this one of the worst experiences that we have had, right? The storm before, maybe we had a structure over there, it wasn't a concrete structure, it was a wooden structure, and it would have gotten more damage than what you have seen here now. Alright, so basically it's just the top. The zinc, I guess everybody else tied down theirs, we didn't tie down ours, so it went with the wind.
Boulders weren't strong enough to stay put. The water made its bed on land. Even the entrance sign was damaged. Councillor for the Helsha Division, Vanrick Preddy, says he will not make any promises to the residents. However, he is working on the situation. Preddy also says he learned of the citizens' reluctance to leave the beach on Thursday.
Each time they have a disaster on the beach, you would have the looters take the opportunity to come and sweep everything off the beach. Each while they were preparing yesterday, they see guys come around with clawbar lurking around, and hence the reason why they was reluctant leaving the beach last night, because I was upset and was wondering why they would not leave the beach.
Helsha Bay Beach is one of the island's most popular spaces for both tourists and locals. The water, however, has moved more inland over the years. Trisha Gay Kelly, CVM News.
And severe flooding, the resilience of seawalls and disruptions at the Norman Manley International Airport were among the noted observations of CVM's Raheem White, who was trapped in a section of Kingston late into the evening during the peril.
In downtown Kingston, the waterfront experienced severe flooding as Hurricane Beryl brought heavy rains and strong winds to the area. The roof of a popular restaurant was ripped off, adding to the list of damage caused by the storm. In Raytown, the sea walls were pushed to their limits by the storm surge. Despite the relentless pounding of waves, the barriers held up, preventing further flooding inland. Efforts to reach Port Royal were hampered by widespread flooding. Many travelers, including our news team, had to seek refuge at the Norman Manley International Airport. The airport sustained minor damage to its infrastructure.
Well, so far we've had damage to a small section of the roof of the terminal building. This is where the passenger pier is, where they would board their jet bridges to depart their flights. The rest of the airport is intact outside of some water intrusion.
The CEO assured that after the damage is repaired, operations will swiftly resume. After waiting for some 4 to 5 hours at the airport, making our way back to the office in Kingston, the scene was that of chaos. From Harbourview Road in Kingston, where the strong winds and heavy rains from Hurricane Beryl have caused trees to fall to the ground, along with wires and fence. It's impossible for the motorists to pass at this time. Cleanup and recovery efforts are now underway, but it will take time for the city to fully recover from Beryl's whip. Raheem White, CVM News.
And several traffic lights across the corporate area were down today. Evidence of the havoc Hurricane Beryl wreaked on the Jamaica Public Service infrastructure. From as early as 5 a.m. to as late as 5 p.m., there was chaos at major intersections as motorists took advantage of the traffic glitch. Andrew Laidley was roving the city.
It's been hours since Hurricane Beryl barreled through Jamaica and is now making our way onward. But leaving in our wake are these traffic lights that have been out since morning. Now I'm standing at the intersection of West Kings House Road and Eastwood Park Road leading onto Constant Spring Road. Our team traveled all the way up to Mannings Hill Road and into the Manor Park area, and we saw several traffic lights that were out and were not working. Now, the Jamaica Public Service has assured that their teams are in fact out and they are working assiduously to ensure that these lights are back up as quickly as possible so order can be maintained. I'm now at the intersection of Dunrobbing Road and Constant Spring Road, and fortunately, since this morning, there hasn't been any accidents on the road, but there has been several near misses. Our news team contacted the National Works Agency, NWA, which is responsible for all traffic signals across the island. NWA Manager for Communications and Customer Services, Stephen Shaw, confirmed that the traffic lights which aren't operational is a result of a lack of electricity within those areas. Now, as for when electricity will be fully restored,
we are now able to go out and start the process of restoration. The very first step in this process is damage assessment. So we have teams right across the island in every parish that is now doing damage assessment. It is very important for us to get this phase right because this will allow us to strategize how we can restore power as quickly and efficiently and safely as possible.
Andrew Laidley for CVM News.
26-year-old Alric Moncrief, otherwise called Kalonji, is yet to be found. He was washed away in floodwaters on Wednesday after he allegedly went in to retrieve a football in his Kingston community. Our reporter Adrian Williams was in the community today.
We are here today on a quite somber note in Arnett Gardens, where 20-year-old Alric Moncrief got washed away in floodwaters just in a gully nearby to where he was playing football. This was during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Now, the family is devastated.